Hey, everybody, welcome to the Her in Between podcast. I'm your host, Kellē Jones, and I'm so happy you're here today. Guess what today is? It's episode 10. 10. 10 is so significant, right? Like 10, we've been doing this for 10 weeks. We've sat on this orange couch 10 times. I have said, I'm so happy you're here today 10 times. 10. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself. We have been going strong too. We have not missed 1 week. Come on, baby. Listen, I'm trying to beat the girl that I was 5 years ago when I tried to start a podcast. I'm beating her. She stopped at episode 2. We had 10. Baby, let go. All right. I'm just clapping for myself right now. Anyways, I'm so happy you're here today. Literally, like, I have built the discipline to get on this mic every week, but I do want to say that the fact that I know that there are people listening and watching me, it helps. And so I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for encouraging me to keep going. And just, I love when people like remind me or mention like they listen to me. It just feels so good. And yeah. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the Her Between podcast. And yeah, on this podcast, we talk about everything and anything, but most importantly, our in between. Before we hop into this episode, I just want to check in and I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you are um, slowing down as much as you can to enjoy life and to enjoy your day to day, and that you're not waiting until you can take some PTO days to treat yourself. I hope that you are mentally taking care of yourself, physically taking care of yourself. And yeah, I just hope that you're doing well. Um, Myself, I'm doing, I feel like better than I was a few episodes ago when I had a breakdown. Um, but I'm doing better. Yeah, I'm doing good. I currently am, my body's going through some changes. We'll get into that later on in the episode. Um, but yeah, I am doing good. I'm slowing down. I've had a really chill week. And I've been able to just be to myself and do things that help me slow down. And yeah, it's been nice. It's rainy. April showers. We're in April, halfway in April, which is insane because I feel like it was just Valentine's Day. Um, but yeah, doing good. Really happy to be here. Really ready to dive into this episode. And yeah, let's get into it. So it's episode 10. And I was thinking about when we got to episode 10, I'm like, when do we enter season 2? So I'm not sure about that yet. So we're still in season 1, episode 10. We're going to keep rolling. But there will be a season 2. And season 2 is going to consist of me, but that's when I'm going to start inviting other women to be on the podcast because I realized I don't mind doing virtual podcasts, but I really think I want the Her in Between podcast to be where another woman enters my house because this is not a studio. Well, it is a studio, but it's a studio in my house, in my office where I work. But I really want to bring her into my space because I love sitting on a couch with somebody and talking. It's something about the couch that I love. It's something about like looking in somebody's eyes and talking with them that just gets me going. And so I was like, if I bring somebody on the podcast, I want to talk to them. Like I want to be able to touch them. So I I'm really excited about season 2, but we're not there yet. If you could see what this room looks like right now, you would understand why I'm saying we're not there yet. And I need to buy another mic for the other person because I don't want to be moving this one back and forth. So yeah, season 2 is coming, but we're still in season 1. Thank you for being here. Please stay for season 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, or whenever I decide to pivot. I don't know. I think this is going to be a long-term thing though. Anyways, so we're still in season 1, episode 10. 10 is so significant that I was like, I want to talk about something that I need to hear often. And maybe you do too. And that is, drum roll, da 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 da, girl, comma, you are not behind. Girl, you are not behind. That's what we're naming today's episode. Girl, you are not behind. I love it. That's the name of today's episode. Y'all know I'll be winging these episodes. So I did. I do have a few notes though for this episode that I took this morning. So yeah, girl, you are not behind. Listen, as we're walking through our in between, as we are getting older, as we're aging, as we gain more experience in this life, I feel like sometimes we fall into this pressure to meet certain guidelines, certain rules, certain expectations that the world has set for us. And honestly, I don't even want to blame it on the world, because one thing I'm learning to do is to take accountability. So I think there's also some rules and expectations that I've personally given myself that I need to meet by a certain age that have caused me to feel like I am behind, that I am missing the mark, that I need to catch up, that I need to move quickly in a certain area. Like there's just this pressure that I have fallen into, and I know that maybe you have too, or maybe you know somebody who has talked about this. So that's what today we're going to be talking about. We're going to be encouraging each other and telling one another that um, we're not behind. Like, girl, you are not behind. You're right on time. God has planted you where you are for a reason. And that it's important to stay rooted in that and not to look to your left or your right, or not to look behind you, or not to look at somebody you love, your friend or your family member, and compare yourself to. Um, so yeah, that's what we're going to be digging into today. And I hope that this blesses you and encourages you. And I hope that you leave this conversation feeling like, yeah, I am going to remain rooted where I am, and that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm not behind. I don't have to compare myself. I can enjoy my in between, and I'm grateful for where I have my feet right now, and that my pace is beautiful, and that I'm moving at the right pace. So, yeah, that's what today's episode is going to be about. I'm really excited to dive in. So, let's get into it. Before we get into our episode, I want to say that good morning. I never record this early in the morning, and because I'm recording this early in the morning, I am drinking water. Y'all, I have really been trying to work on my water intake because my body is going through some changes. And I realized I gotta feed it what it needs, give it what it needs. And if I don't, there are repercussions. No, it's always been repercussions if you don't drink water. But yeah, drinking water this morning, that's our special drink. Um, this water isn't just any water, it's spring water with lime in it. I probably will get into my fun drink after this podcast is over with. So yeah, but I had to show my drink because that's what we do on the Her Between podcast. So let's talk about timeline. And if you didn't know, I'm 30. So I'm talking about this from a 30-year-old perspective. I feel like society tries to put us on these timelines, whether it's for our careers, our relationships, um, having a baby, uh, buying certain things, getting into a house, getting into your first apartment, moving out of your parents' house, uh, health goals, 401k goals, business goals. There's so many timelines that we're given, and that and goals we need to have achieved by a certain age. I feel like it's kind of dangerous. And if society isn't giving us these things, it's ourselves. We be in our heads and we be comparing ourselves to the people that we love, the people that we see online, the people that we see on the street. We're looking at them in a cafe and they look like they have it together. We just spend so much time uh, not embracing our timeline, not understanding that our journey is as unique as we are, not understanding that our in between is as unique as we are. Touched on this earlier, but you are so unique. There is nobody in this world that has the same fingerprint as you. Even if you're a twin, you got different things about you. You are so beautiful. You are so beautifully unique. You are so special. There is nobody like you. There are things that you are doing right now that nobody can do. They can do the same thing as you're doing, but they can't do it like you. When you came into this world, things changed. When you leave this world, things will be different. Um, and because that is so true, that means that your journey is going to be so unique. Your friend may have got married at 20. You may not get married until you're 38. You may not get married till you're 45. Your friend had a baby when she was 25. You might not pop one out till you're 38. You may not have children. And that doesn't make your timeline less than or greater than. I want us to take this moment to celebrate exactly where we are right now. Go ahead, do it right now. Say, I am so grateful for where I am right now. I am right on time. There's no place that I would rather be. Let's celebrate exactly where we are right now, because this is where we're at. And I know it might be hard. You might be going through some challenging things, but if you're here right now, this is where you're supposed to be. Think about where you are right now, and how you've made it through every single hard day, and that you made it through your most challenging moments. Like you're here right now in this moment, and you're still standing, you're still breathing, and that you're not where you used to be. I think in order to embrace our timeline, we've got to embrace our now, because our now is on the timeline. You think about your timeline is from when you're born to when you get out of here, and we're somewhere in the in between. And until we learn to embrace our in between, our now, we won't be able to embrace our whole timeline. So, yeah, let's declare right now that we're going to embrace our timeline. Moving forward, even on the hard days, I embrace this. I embrace this life. When I think about my life, now that I'm 30, I look back on everything that I've walked through, um, everything that I'm walking through. And I think about how I held so much, there was so much pressure I used to put on myself. And I still fall into putting in some pressure on myself now. But I look back on the pressures I used to give myself, and I was not gentle with myself. I thought that I needed to have everything together by this point. Pressure to have a certain amount of money by a certain age, pressure to have my business, because I'm a grant writer and I have a business called Grant Write Her. And we basically write and manage grants and help nonprofits get the resources they need to do the great things that they've been called to do. And I wanted to have an agency already where I'm no longer working. And I used to work hours on hours, no healthy life work balance. no healthy work life balance, and also to just be in certain places with my marriage already. Just I used to put so much pressure on myself, and it caused a lot of anxiety and worry and feelings of defeat and feelings of unworthiness. And it allowed me to, it put me in almost a depressive state at times. And so, one day I really had to ask myself, like, Kellē, who told you you had to do this by a certain age? You know? And sometimes I could point to society and be like, well, they say, but a lot of time I couldn't point to anybody else but myself. I created these things and these rules on my own. And yeah, probably I was influenced by society and other people, but the pressure I was doing that myself. And so I had to tell myself, Kellē, who who is who is it who's writing these rules? And I couldn't look at anybody but myself. And not only like who's writing these rules, but who is the author of your life? And then I thought about, like, okay, God is the author of my life. So if God is the author of your life and God is ruler of your life, then don't you think that you can just go to him instead of going to the world, and instead of comparing yourself to um, these this timeline that you feel like society may have given you? Like, why are you going to the world when you can just go to God and bring these um, ideas to him? And so I started to do that, and the more that I started to read the word and understand that, like, God is in control of my life. If I look to God and I allowed him to guide my day to day, I can't go wrong. And things may be hard, but that doesn't mean I'm in the wrong place. I think that I used to think that when things got hard, that meant that I was in the wrong place, or I'm behind, or I'm doing something wrong. No. If anything, God, literally, his word promises us that life is going to be hard, but we have him, so we'll get through it. Um, and so when I started to truly believe these things and live my life as if they were true, then it got easier, and I started to take a lot of pressures off of myself to be to just live. And I started to just live and to just flow. And I'm not saying I do this perfectly every time, but like I said earlier, like, I know what's true and what's not. So when I start comparing myself, and when I start holding myself to these standards, and when I start believing that, oh, I should have done this by now, I just go back to the truth and what I believe, and the fact that God has me right where I'm supposed to be. And that is, if I continue to look at him and not my to my left or my right, then I'll be all right. And so, um, why am I talking about this? Yeah, life got easier when I started to allow God to be God, and that I started to trust that his plans for my life are perfect, and that maybe it looks like I'm behind to somebody else, or but that don't matter because they're not the author of my life. So one thing that has helped me embrace my timeline is allowing God to lead me, and to trust that his plans for my life are perfect. Another thing that has helped me realize that I'm not behind is I let go of comparison. We have information overload. And when I say we have information overload, I'm saying that um, we come in contact with so many people, so many things all the time, whether it's on social media, um, whether it's on YouTube. Well, YouTube is technically social media, isn't it? Kind of. Um, we're just bombarded with other people's lives all the time. It's 2024, and it's easy to compare. All these curated images create unrealistic expectations. It makes you, we look at one image on Instagram and we think we know somebody's life. We see somebody got the six-figure job. We see somebody got the job that we've been praying for. Um, we see somebody's had the baby and we've been trying for months, years. We see somebody got married and we are literally in our third breakup of the year. Like we are we are bombarded with all of these images that we don't even know the story that's attached to them. We see a caption and we think that's the full story. Um, and it can become a dangerous thing, and we compare ourselves to things that we really don't even know about. It can make you feel like you're behind, um, and it's just a dangerous place to be in. One area that I feel like that I've compared myself in the most, I would say, is career. I feel like my career path is very unique. uh, all of ours are. So I'm not even about to say that. But I often feel like, I should be in a higher place than I am right now. And I think that I should have retirement, more in my investments. Like it's a nasty game to play, and it takes away from all the progress that I have made. When I think about where I started my career and where I am now, looking at it for real, I'm like, dang, girl, you a boss. Like, I'm so proud of you. But the moment that I put my eyes on somebody else's career that I barely even know about, it spoils all my achievements. It spoils all my growth. And I just want to say that if you find yourself comparing yourself all the time, I would say that you need to stop. And the best way that's helped me is that I pray and I ask God to help me. Help me, God, to embrace everything that you've given me. Help me, God, to keep my eyes on my own paper. Help me, God, to trust in your plan for my life. Help me, God, to be obedient to you, and to not look at other people's success as a as my failure. Yeah, other people's success is not your failure. Also, outside of prayer, setting up boundaries. If you need to get off social media, if you need to stop hanging out with certain people, if you feel like those things trigger you, literally take a step back. Some people cannot handle social media, and that's okay. Some people, social media triggers them. Some people, um, when they're around a group of people, it triggers them. Like, find your triggers and deal with them. Sometimes that means cutting it out cold turkey. Sometimes that means putting up boundaries. Sometimes that means uh, going to go speak to somebody, talk to somebody about these feelings that come up when you engage in the specific, whatever the specific activity is. We all need to face this thing differently. We're all so unique and we have to deal with things differently. But prayer and getting into my word and speaking to other people about feelings that I've had really has helped me. Over the years, I've developed friendships where I am able to talk about my feelings and not have shame surrounding them. And it's been really helpful. So that's what's helped me with comparison. And the third way I want to remind you that you're not behind is for you to trust the process. I think part of trusting the process is having faith in your journey and understanding that even if it's not clear and even if I don't understand, I am right where I'm supposed to be. I don't like to say that everything happens for a reason, even though ultimately, if you believe that even when I don't understand, I know it'll work out. It kind of somewhat means the same thing. But I don't like to say everything happens for a reason because people walk through very painful things. Um, and I think that everything happens for a reason is just a slap in the face sometimes. So I don't want to say that, but I do want to say that everything that you are walking through and everything that you will have walked through, um, even if it hasn't made sense yet, even if you don't understand why it happened, that it can be used for good. There's a scripture, I'm going to bring it up. I read the Bible, but I just don't remember everything word for word, and I don't want to tell you something that's really not in the Bible. But Romans 8:28, it says, "All things work together for good to those who love God." The key word there is together. So when I read that verse, I sometimes think about how difficulty happens, challenges happen. Um, but in that verse, when it says all things work together for good to those who love God, the key word is together. And the fact that like a difficulty on its own may not make sense. A difficulty on its own um, can seem like a waste. It can seem like vain, like it's purposeless. God can take all of those things and create something very beautiful, and that's what our journey is. And so um, I think part of trusting the process is having faith on your journey and understanding that it's not a straight shot. It's up and it's down and it's curvy, but it it's beautiful. I think that we just need to believe that no matter what we face, even if it's not immediately clear, it's going to work out. God's going to work it out. Um, I recently shared, I have a women's group, and we talk about like really hard things. And I don't know if I want to share this actually right now on the internet, but I shared something really hard that I went through, something that changed my life. Um, and it, for years, I thought that um, I went through something, that everything happens for a reason. Um, and I just went through this thing because um, I had to go through it. And it wasn't until years, I'm talking so long afterwards, I realized how, I'm getting emotional. Sorry. How God just uses every part of us, everything that we walk through, every part of our story, ultimately for good. And um, it wasn't until like this past year that I truly believed that. And so I want you to know that nothing that you're walking through right now is in vain. And it's not to say that you had to go through this, but it's the simple fact that you did, and that um, it's a part of your journey, and that it'll be good in the end. Um, and yeah, it's hard to say, and it sounds so cheesy to say sometimes, but it's true. And so, in order to trust the process, you gotta have faith. So keep the faith, friend. Keep the faith. I think another way we can trust this process is to embrace twists and turns, embrace uncertainty. Um, it's immature and childish to think that uncertainty won't happen. And I think that understanding that it will happen and that you will be all right and that you will get through is how you learn to trust the process. It's how you learn to understand that I may be going through this twist, but I'm not behind. This twist was a part of my journey. And maybe they did get a straight shot, but I didn't. But I'll get there. I don't want to be outside of God's pace for my life. And so maybe my pace is curvy. I think about when you're driving, when you're on the highway, there's no traffic, you will get to your destination on time, if not earlier. But when you've got to do all these curves, when you're at stoplights, when you're at detours, it takes a little longer, but you can still get to your destination. You still will get to your destination. Most of us don't live a life where there's no stoplights, no detours, no stop signs, no curvy roads. Like most of us don't have that life. Nobody has that life, actually. I'm just being nice. Nobody has that life. And I think that the moment that you understand that and embrace those twists and those turns and understand that this is just part of my way and that the pace that God has for me is the perfect pace, that will help you realize that no, just because I stopped at the stop sign doesn't mean that I'm behind. I'm getting there, girl. And last but not least, I think that surrendering the need for control. We talked about this earlier. I don't have to control every aspect of my life. Um, and when I feel like I need to control, that's when I lose control. Surrender is the beginning of freedom. When we surrender the need to control everything, there is, we open our, when we surrender the need to control everything, we open ourselves up to so much. We open ourselves up to the path that we were always set out to be on. We open ourselves up to be led by God and to be free from this pressure. Yeah, I think it's yeah, God has a perfect plan for each and every one of us. One thing that I've been falling into, um, and it's kind of a sensitive topic. Now that I'm 30, everybody always asks me where my children are. I'm married. I've been married for 7 years. Honestly, when I first got married, like as soon as I got married, I think people started asking me where my kids were. Like, when am I gonna have a baby? But now I've married 7 years, and uh, it is heightened the amount of times I get asked where my children are. And remember earlier when I was talking about my body is going through some changes? Oh, it is. I got off birth control, and I've been on birth control for so long. I feel like I'm hopping from subject to subject, but it's all coming together. Trust the process. But I've been on birth control for so long, many, many, many years, and my body almost feel like just doesn't understand what it's like not to be on birth control. But I got off. I am going through so many changes. My period has stayed the same, but other than that, like my skin is purging, like my hormonal breakouts, body acne. My body is just like freaking out right now. That's why I said I was drinking water. But now that I'm off birth control, I think about, okay, my body is on its way to be open to having kids. Um, but I say that to say, um, I have a lot of pressure on me to have a child. And I used to be like very strong about not having children. But now I'm like, I'm open to it. I'm like, if I get pregnant, I'm going to have a baby. And I know I can have a beautiful life. And I do believe that God is the giver of life. If He sees me fit to be a mom, He's going to put a baby in me. Well, allow me to carry a child. But also, I'm like at this point in my life where I am down to not have children. I feel like I'm at this place of, God, is it bad that I don't have children right now? Like, I'm questioning that. And I'm like, I was a little concerned that I don't desire to have children. And I'm 30, I'm married, I have a beautiful marriage, and I know my husband would make a great dad, but I don't have that thing that I hear other women have, like, oh, um, I want to birth all these babies. I don't have that. And I started falling into this thing that, like, is something wrong with me. And I think, obviously, that's somewhat me comparing what I hear from other people to my life and to how I truly feel. But I started asking these questions, and it was like God spoke to me, and He just let me know that, like, His timing is perfect, and that when it's time, I will feel that genuinely. I won't feel a pressure to feel like that. I won't feel like I'm behind on my mindset. I, when it's time, if it ever becomes a time, He will bring that to me. And it was so comforting because I almost felt shame that I don't want children right now. I was calling my mom and I just told her, like, is it bad that I don't feel this way? Is it bad that it's not within me? Like, I'm not wanting to lie to myself like that anymore. Like, try to lie myself into feeling like, oh yeah, I do feel this way when I don't. But I was crying and I was just like, you know, I know I can't be having babies probably when I'm like 45. So, God, is it bad that I'm this age and I don't really desire them? Or my husband doesn't desire them either, which is like, why are we both not, like, something wrong? Is this trauma? And yeah, God spoke to me and He was just like, my timing is perfect. And He just reminded me of how God has prepared my heart for so many levels of my life that like, God has prepared me in the past. He's prepared my heart. He's given me desires at the perfect time. So why wouldn't He do that when it's time for me to have children? Or maybe I'm not going to have children, but I don't need to shame myself. And I just need to trust in Him and my journey and that I'm right on time. And I don't know if you're facing certain um, things like I am. Maybe it's uh, a career. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's you having children or you having more children or you not having children at all. I don't know, but I think it's important to understand that God is like is that we need to surrender and allow God to lead us. We don't need to just try to lead ourselves or allow this world to lead us. Is that He's perfect. And so, yeah, I it's I love that God took that away, that feeling of my mindset being behind away from me because it was eating me up inside for a minute. And yeah, it feels so freeing to be away from that. I don't know. And it is like I felt that for a while, but He took it away in a moment. I don't know. And I usually don't experience stuff like that. So that was cool. Um, I'm not getting back on birth control though, but that can be another episode. Um, I'm just gonna ride this wave out. Actually, I don't even want to say that I'm not getting back on birth control ever because my friend asked me that, and I was like, no, I might, but for now, I don't feel the need to. It's actually kind of there's a lot of benefits to being off of it too. We can talk about that on another episode. But yeah, I hope that made sense. But yeah, surrender, surrender shame, surrender the need to control, and know that God's got a perfect plan for you. His plan is perfect, and in His plan, there's peace. So yeah, didn't know we were gonna go that deep. I might do an episode about coming off birth control after being on it for so long. Um, but that might come later. I might do that with my friend actually. Hmm. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like this episode was all over the place, but I hope that it brought some clarity and it encouraged you. Um, yeah. So as we wrap up this episode, I just want to remind you that you're not behind. Your journey is uniquely yours. Your in between is uniquely yours. And it's important to embrace that. And it's important to understand that it's unfolding just how it's supposed to be. And it's important to understand that God's plan for your life is perfect. And that as long as you are on that path, no matter what those turns include, no matter what those twists look like, it does not mean that you're behind. And that comparison is the thief of joy. And it takes away from the place that God has you rooted in right now. And it makes you not have gratitude for the place that you are in right now. And that it's so important to be kind to yourself and show yourself compassion. And it's important to tell yourself how proud you are of yourself. And that there's no place that you'd rather be than where you are right now, where your feet are right now. And the more that you embrace where you are right now, the more that you can really take in everything right now. When we're not fully present where we are right now, we miss out on so much. And so instead of thinking you're behind, I want you to think that you are right where you're supposed to be. So I know it's not easy, but it's something that we can all do. I love you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and listening to me ramble because, yeah, I know this episode was a little messy. It is early in the morning, but yeah, I love you. Thank you so much. Leave a review if you can on Apple Podcasts. Share it with a friend. Yeah. Peace, baby.